It's go time. And it's I was forgive me. It's best to be on time or early if I can. So here we are. My name's John. I'm from Bellevue, and I think a little bit about divorce now and then, perhaps. And I got friended by Pearl Davis on Twitter, so I started paying attention to her more. And she starts saying various things about, she lobs some serious bombs about women and dignity and men women aren't as good as men and all that kind of. I was like, what's going on here? And so, but I started thinking to myself, she is part of why she's got staying power. She's got the gift of gab and everything, but she's saying some politically incorrect stuff, which nobody wants to hear in the status quo, but it's true. And I started thinking, she said, um, we can play a couple of her clips here in a minute, but she started talking about how well, let's just listen to a clip. Let me see if let's start with that, and then we'll go because let me back up a second. What I want to do is talk about what she said, why I think this can help her to become to revert to the Catholic Church because she's sort of a fallen away Catholic, in my opinion, is what I can tell. And then uh, why she would be motivated because she wants marriage, she wants to defend marriage, but she's frustrated because the contract of marriage has no teeth. And I want to try to explain to her that only the Catholic Church has the contract and has the enforcement mechanism through the bishop so that there can be teeth. And that once she connects the dots, I think she'll be all over that. But I'm trying to get that to her. And meanwhile, I'm going to try my best to connect the dots here for you guys. Um, uh, so I'm going to hopefully won't take long, but if you want to stick around and find out all the details, please do. And then uh, the difference between me and I think everybody else on YouTube that I can find is I always answer all the questions that you leave in the chat or in the comment section later, rather than just kind of like, you know, uh, speak and run away. No, I'm going whatever. When you listen to me, if you have a question, I say something you don't like or it doesn't sound right, just push pause and put it in the comment section or, for later, because I will get back to you. And even if it takes 27 exchanges, that's what I'm going to do because uh, if you have the truth, you're not afraid it's going to be defended rather than I don't want to go there and ask that question. So um, let us see if we can get heck, where is it? Here. Let's listen to this one. I think this is the first one we want to hear. Just a minute. Share this tab instead. Okay. Boom. And then I'll put me in the corner here or in the let's see what she says. Here we go. This is kind of what got it started, okay? For me. And then I'm going to back up what she says with some Catholics like St. Thomas Aquinas and Cornelius a Lapide. Hit it.
I think that God is naturally in men, and I think the devil is naturally in women.
All right, so there. Listen to what she said. Obviously, she thinks that God is naturally in men and the devil is naturally in women. Where does she come up with that? Who told her that? Nobody. She figured it out on her own. Um, Adrian, I see your comment. That's good. Okay, so anyway, so she came up with that on her own. And it's nature, okay? Because we're told everywhere that men and women are equal and all that stuff. And when she did that little debate with Trent Horn, she wanted to say he kind of forced her into that, and she didn't know how to defend that. But um, even though Pearl is just like I said, she's a serious mixed bag. She's got crazy stuff coming out of her mouth. It's hard to watch her sometimes, but she is saying the thing that cannot fly with the status quo, that there's inequalities between men and women. And the reason for that is because in the Catholic Church today, not the modernists that run the place, they have said that marriage is an equal partnership, etc. Therefore, all the wives be subordinate and men are different than women. We can't have that. And that's the problem. And I think Pearl instinctively knows while I'm thinking of it, throughout history, God has used unlikely vessels, you might say, to um, kind of promote what he wants. So you have Don Juan, the illegitimate son, there to lead the army against in the Battle of Lepanto against the uh, Muslims. They were like ISIS. So Rush Limbaugh, he's another broken record, but he had the eye of the tiger. This is gifts from God. I think people get inspired. Okay, Jordan Peterson's another wild and crazy one. He's off the reservation, but the guy kind of has some horse sense and he doesn't let up. And I think Pearl Davis is kind of like that. So I sort of interrupted myself too much. Let's listen to the rest of what she says.
Now, I know this sounds crazy, but all the evil in the world seems to come from women, men from single mother homes, or men that defer to the authority of women.
That was a good line. In other words, she is saying that women tend to get into trouble or are lost unless they have a good man in authority that they defer to. And she is right.
Where all the uniquely great, inspiring things that I've seen seem to come from men. Now, it's not to say there can't be good women. When you meet like a pure, innocent woman, there's something special about it. But those are few and far between. They're pretty rare. And generally, they are the way they are because they have a really strong husband or a really strong father in their life.
That's it. That's part of that. I got another clip too, but that was really good what she said. And she's, like I said, she admits earlier in this is her talk about religion video, and she kind of admits she's kind of a knucklehead who doesn't really know what she's talking about. She's not a scholar, whatever, not like I am or anything, but I know a thing or two, right? And so I think she's just, like I said, been inspired to get this message out that women without men are bad news. Generally, what they come up with and what they do, and when they get in power, and for example, the only reason I think the main reason Pearl is popular is because of red pill stuff and all these guys going, we're just getting raked in divorce court. So what do we do? So she is speaking up about that, but she lacks the solution, which is where I'm here to provide the solution to her. Okay. And I did ask Jordan Peterson when I was meeting with him once at a conference. I said, when are you going to become Catholic or whatever? And he's like, oh, I don't know when I can do that or whatever. That's part of it because you will lose some of your audience and it's going to cost you. Okay. So if she were to become Catholic, Pearl, or not that she is Catholic now, but if she was to revert and become serious, she'd make new friends and she'd lose a lot of her current friends. So that might be holding her back somewhat. All right, now let's find the next video and we'll listen to this one, okay? Let me turn the volume up on that one. Here we go.
That men are living representatives of God on earth, and women will become evil if we do not defer to the authority of the men in our lives.
That's what I said. That's so good. There's tons of examples of that. I'm gonna give a couple cool sound bites from some like Aquinas and Lapide that back this up. She doesn't even know what these things are, but she's saying it and she doesn't shut up and she doesn't care. And that's good. And part of why like I said, all the Catholic status quo, the modernists, not the church, but the modernists running the place won't have this is because they have created this new love-based version of marriage defined as love so that they can justify their family planning. And if you blow out the family planning, we can't. That's Christopher Stefanik is going to have trouble. In other words, you're going to lose the status quo. So this is that. Oh, don't get me started. Hold on. Let's just see what else she says.
Whether it's a father, whether it's a husband. And that's my thoughts on religion.
All right, so there it is. Okay. It wasn't a long video, but that was the key thing she pointed to. So let's go to the next slide here. And some of you guys have seen this before. Just a minute. I'll share this tab. All right, you guys. I started looking up, how can she say things like men are from God and women are from the devil? that's a very like crude way to put it. And it's true, but it's not true at the same time. So we have to make distinctions. Otherwise, you will just reject her. Um, and then I want to try to bring it in for a landing and explain why uh, actually the Catholic Church is the solution for how we put the teeth back in the marriage contract, which is the missing link. Okay. And that I think when you start putting that plug in that socket, that'll turn her on. She'll be like, yes, this is what I'm looking for is the justice part of it, which is nowhere. Okay. Uh, the state's never going to save marriage. That's gone unless you can come up with some sort of legal prenup uh, legislatively or whatever. Okay, here. Um, Now let's look at all this. Not men are from Mars, women are from Venus, but women are from hell stuff. Listen to this. This is from Cornelius a Lapide. Okay. Um, For Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not seduced, but the woman was seduced and sinned. This means woman must remain silent and learn. This is not teach. That is not teach and but be subject to her husband, because the man excels her. Okay, so that's what she is saying. First, because of the dignity of being the first creation. So he's like a different creature. Man comes first, woman is made from him for him. People know this, but there's a different dignity. That's you're not allowed to say because of this equal partnership of the love contract business. Oh boy. Okay. Um All right. For Eve allowed herself to be seduced so easily and imprudently, but not Adam. This is okay. There you go. That's kind of what she's talking about. Women have a different working brain. It's designed to be for motherhood. That's what they do best. That's what they're designed for. Men are designed for the intellectual and the higher stuff and truth and being able to put that truth into practice, which is okay. Chrysostom said the same thing, noting that following the example of the first woman, Eve, all women are here implicitly accused of imprudence and levity. Therefore, Primatius teaches, whoever that guy is, the apostle teaches, that's probably Paul, I guess, that women must be subject to their husbands because they are second in hierarchical order. Whoa. Women are second in hierarchical order. Never heard that before, ever. So if this kind of okay, this is why I think Pearl is getting like totally hammered, is because she's a soft target because she doesn't know how to back this stuff up with church teaching. She admits she's like a she's like a rock star. She's not into the PhD stuff. Not that I am, but I can read a little bit. Okay, so women are second in hierarchical order, but first in guilt. That's why God put men in charge. All right. So then we'll cruise on a little bit to St. Thomas Aquinas. This is St. Thomas Aquinas after this. All right. So by a kind of subjection, woman is naturally subject to man because in man, the discretion of reason predominates. So she's more emotional, I guess, and acts on that emotion, and the man is more reasonable. And this is why when you say marriage is a love contract, it's not defined, and among the educated, 90% are women who do the divorce because they blow out because they say, screw the discretion of reason. I feel strongly and I'm going to go with my feelings. That's what's up. So then we got, but man is yet further ordered to still nobler vital action, and that is intellectual operation. Okay. So matrimony is the work of motherhood. And as you all know, so man is the work of man is not motherhood. Okay. So this is no equal partnership. And by the way, that we're going to get to that one flesh thing in a minute. Men and women are only one flesh when during procreation, but the rest of the time, no. I shouldn't say it that way. They're not. I'll have to just quote St. Thomas Aquinas to get it straight because it's really easy to goof this stuff up and people can run with it and say, you don't know what you're talking about. I just fall back on St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay, here we go. And as among animals, there is a vital operation nobler than generation, to which their life is principally directed. Therefore, the male sex is not found in continual union with the female. So there's more to life than just generation, okay? Than all this one flesh stuff. Um, therefore, the male sex is not found in continual union with the female, okay? In perfect animals, that means animals that can walk around that are separate, like, not plants. But only at the time of coition, so that we may consider that by these means, male and female, they're plants, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But the man is yet further ordered to a still nobler vital action, and that is intellectual operation. Like we said. So this is why women get messed up when they are insubordinate to men, because they're not naturally geared toward getting it right, whereas men are. And there's countless I shouldn't say countless. There's a lot of examples where Mary said, "Do whatever he tells you." Mary is humility, and she submits to Christ. As regards the individual, this is where Trent Horn was trying to say it's all about biology, and St. Thomas Aquinas didn't know about this stuff. And if you listen to what Trent Horn says, though, he he doesn't make the distinction between the individual nature and the human nature in his video against Pearl Davis when she said weird stuff about Mary. That's where I got this. As regards the individual nature, woman is defective and misbegotten. That's like the key quote that everyone likes to throw out, and everyone shies away from that. Because if marriage, like I said, if this is equal partnership, because love is the foundation of marriage, wrong. It's procreation and rights is the foundation. But you can't say that if you want to get your NFP in there. So once we have this NFP, marriage is dead because it's blown out because there's no legal definition. Okay, so as regards the individual nature, woman is defective and misbegotten, for the active force in the male seed tends to the production of the perfect likeness in the masculine sex. A man is the likeness of Christ, the perfect likeness. Okay, that's kind of what they're getting at, and his intellectual pursuits and his reasonable nature, that's sort of quote unquote perfection. Okay, the masculine sex. On the other hand, when you compare men to women, woman is defective because she's not the perfect human being the man is. When you compare the two, however, like I said, on the other hand, as regards to human nature, it's all part of God's plan. There's nothing defective about human nature and how God set things up. But men and women have different roles, different dignity, and a different hierarchy. And this is one thing that Pearl keeps hammering. I've heard her say it. I was like, whoa, how did she even know that? And then I went back and looked this up. I'm like, that's where it comes from. But these guys knew it, but Pearl doesn't even know. She just woke up one day and she's like, wow, men are above women. And like I said, you you can't say that today because marriage is a love thing. But I'm going to try to bring this in for a landing and explain why I think Pearl Davis is going to be excited once she understands that the Catholic Church has the teeth to back up the marriage contract, and you can return the marriage contract to become law-based instead of love-based. So on the other hand, as regards to human nature in general, woman is not misbegotten, but is included in nature's intervention as directed to the work of generation. So that's what she's for, matrimony. Just like Mary is the new ark of the covenant, okay? It's not that Mary was defective and misbegotten in the compared to man she is, but in the way God sets things up, there's a purpose to all this, and to perfectly fulfill that is a big deal, obviously. So she's the queen of heaven because she said yes to the nature that God set up. All right, let's try to. I'm going to freelance here a little bit on this idea of how Pearl can get excited about the Catholic Church can provide the justice. since okay, there's ever since marriage went public, which was going to be like, I don't know, somewhere in the 800s or whatever, because they had to stop the clandestine marriages, right? Um, so they had to register it with the public authority, which is the church. And once that started happening, then you could not separate without the bishop, because what God has joined, let not man put asunder. And the church says everything happens in the church and not apart from the church, and the separations. And that got pretty much nailed down at the Council of Trent as well. So the separation courts, if you look at old newspaper clippings from the 50s and 60s, you will find them talking about separation courts. So it's continued until the Beatles, because when Jane wants to separate from Joe or whatever, there has to be the he said, she said. Oh, by the way, so you've heard, like, Michael Knowles was talking about the lady who is crying because she's a single mom and she's making cupcakes for herself. And she's crying because she's sad because there's no one there to share her cupcakes with her birthday and her kids are gone or whatever. And then the husband comes in and says, yeah, she's bad news for all these reasons. And then she comes back and says, yeah, he's bad news for all these reasons. And then Michael Knowles says he's all private. It's not, because the separation of spouses is governed by the public authority, and that is the local ordinary, the bishop. Now, when you say, oh, screw you, bishop, I'm going to just do my own thing. Okay, good. I'm going to do my own thing. Um, then if that happens, you lose the sacraments, as in when you separate extra ecclesia outside of the church, you no longer get the sacraments. And that's always the way it's been. Now, rather than showing more paperwork and slides and whatever to back up my point, anyone have any questions about this? In the comment section later, I'll show you everything. But what I want to try to get through to Pearl Davis is, she keeps talking about marriage. Marriage is a Catholic sacrament. It's from God. You can't do marriage unless you have a the public authority to back it up. And the Catholic Church is the only one that has that, because it can define the rights. Okay. Um, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, once she knows that, she can say, if instead of like, don't guys, it's a bad deal to get married and all that stuff, or guys lose out on marriage. And yeah. Oh, by the way, one thing, when she talks to Trent Horn, or when she talks to um, what's his face, who's the guy who's always I was just listening to on my phone. Why am I blanking? Hang on. You know what I'm talking about. Hello, Michael Knowles. When she talks to Michael Knowles, they keep saying, she says marriage is a bad deal for men. They shouldn't get married, or you know what I mean. It got to be careful. And then Michael Knowles says, no, just go for it. In a way, Michael Knowles is right. Marriage is a good deal for everybody, no matter how bad the state laws are, because to just not get married is sort of worse. Okay. It's better to take a chance and have a tough time than to not take a chance and in other words, pick your poison. And it's worse to be single than to try to get married and get hammered or whatever. At least you've learned a lot and you've grown from that, and you've got kids. And there's a saying, if you have a happy marriage, you're a happy guy. If you have a bad marriage, you're a philosopher. So there's always an upside to all this stuff. Okay. At any rate, what's missing from the Pearl versus the Tradcons is, the Tradcons don't know that separation courts used to exist, and that all divorces must be on Catholic property, on church grounds. You can't take your separation or your divorce to the state. It's got to be in the church. And then they do judge fault. When marriage is based in law, you can judge the one guilty spouse and one innocent spouse. But if marriage is a love contract to make room for family planning, because that's the new purpose of the act, is love, right? Then there's no justice, there's no separation courts, which is why when NFP got going, all the family courts, the separation courts went away. So Pearl Davis is against family planning. She's against contraception. I've never heard her talk about NFP. So I think she would recognize and be attracted to the fact that the Catholic Church is still standing there with the separation courts, even though they're not in practice right now. And that would be really cool if she figured that out. And then she would say, yeah, they have truth and they have justice in marriage, and no one else does. So uh, I'd say that's pretty much a wrap on that. Like I said, I just wanted to mention this stuff about her and hope that she kind of picks up on where marriage came from and who is the sheriff in town regarding the justice of separation, and that would be the local ordinary, the bishop. And she at least has the eye of the tiger on. I think she would laugh at theology of the body, and she'd be like, "What the heck is this?" and throw it over her shoulder. You know what I mean? She kind of gets some basics and like horse sense. That's what she has, and she's just a battering ram on that, and that's good. But like I said, she's a mixed bag, and I think she's kind of lost, uh, uh, for sure. And hopefully, she comes in for a landing, because if she's, like I said, pursuing marriage questions, she can get to the bottom of where marriage comes from and who's in charge of it and where justice comes from in there. And she's not afraid to say that uh, procreation is primary, therefore, and the women are to be subject to their husband. So it's a natural fit. I think that's a wrap, and you can subscribe and all that good stuff. But the main thing I want you to do is give me a hard time with questions or tell me I'm wrong or any of that stuff so that I can. Oh, by the way, I'm not like a mean dude, or I'm not going to call you names or give you a hard time. Sometimes people in the comment section, they're like, "You're such a jerk. You're this, you're that." No, I'll be patient, and I'm just totally cool, and you can ask me all the questions you want. All right, on that note, we're going to call it a wrap. Love it. Peace out.